John Eustace made the call to drop Liam Thompson in the Portsmouth game, and ultimately it hasn't quite gone to plan. Now, Derby County haven't picked up a victory since their win over Preston North End now 3 games ago, and ultimately it's not very good for Derby County to look at, and it's something which needs to be discussed in my opinion, because Derby County were the form team in the division, 4 wins in a row. I think over the course of the last 8 games we've picked up 14 points, which has obviously been massive for Derby County's hunt for survival this season. But ultimately it came with a very good setup, and that setup came with obviously Jakub Zetterstrom in goal, a back 3 of Clark, Phillips and Forsyth, 2 wing backs of Elder and Wilson, a midfield 3 of Ebu Adams, Liam Thompson and Harrison Armstrong, and a front 2 of Marcus Harness and Jerry Yates. Now obviously there is some enforced changes that have been made, with obviously Josh Vickers having to step in for Jakub Vidal Zetterstrom, and then Sondre Langas having to come in for Callum Elder, with Forsyth moving out to that left wing back position. Now, I have no problem with the changes made to ensure that we're still solid at the back, with Forsyth going to left wing back, Langas coming in at right centre half. I've got no problems with that. My main issue comes with the changes that we've made to our forward line. If you go back to the Burnley game, I think many walked away from that game, including myself. If you haven't done so already, go and check out the matchday vlog from that one. We walked away from that game thinking we should have taken 3 points here. If you have not done so already, make sure you hit that subscribe button and turn on that notification bell to stay tuned for all of my Derby County content heading your way across the course of the end of this season, and then heading into the postseason. There's going to be lots of talk about transfers, management, and everything that goes with potential relegation or staying in the division. So if you want to stay tuned for all of that, hit the subscribe button, turn on the notification bell, hit the like button as well to stay tuned for all the content, and let me know your thoughts on this video down in the comments. And that was down to an impressive performance across the course of midfield and the back line, and obviously those in the forward positions as well, with Jerry Yates and Marcus Harness obviously having those opportunities to put the ball in the back of the net. But ultimately, what we've then lost heading into Pompey is Liam Thompson in midfield. We bought in Mendez-Laing, who in my opinion hasn't been great for Derby for a while this season. Yes, he had a little bit of a spell where he scored a couple of goals, but ultimately hasn't been great this season. And then obviously yesterday started off with Mendez-Laing, and then obviously brought in Caden Jackson when Mendez-Laing got injured in the 15th minute. I think it was a fractured eye socket, if I remember rightly. And ultimately for me, I'm not saying that we create less chances or anything like that, because ultimately, if you look at the data, we have a better XG and things like that. But ultimately, what we lose by adding that extra attacker is the battle and fight in midfield. We saw on multiple occasions yesterday with Marcus Harness that he wasn't willing to chase down that final ball, and he kept stopping or half-arsing a run. Jerry Yates did it a couple of times as well. And in my opinion, I believe that's now because Jerry Yates is essentially pressing from the front on his own. And whereas before you'd have Thompson and Adams sitting ahead of Harrison Armstrong with Harness there as well, and Jerry Yates, and you'd have essentially a front 5 sort of attacking, and then even the wing backs would jump on as well, which is obviously really impressive to do. And when it works, it looks really good, and obviously it gives Derby County the opportunity to win the ball much higher up the field, or it gives you the opportunity to force that long ball, which is it's brilliant. When it works, it's brilliant. And Derby County have been brilliant at working that over the course of, say, up until Pompey. So what would we say, the last 6 games, we've got into a real rhythm with it. But as soon as you take out Liam Thompson, you take out the fight, you take out the bite in midfield, which in my opinion comes from Liam Thompson and Ebu Adams being able to be a couple of steps ahead of Harrison Armstrong, you cause yourself some problems, in my opinion. And there's a lot of people, I put a TikTok out this morning, and there's a lot of people who do disagree with sort of my sort of point of view on this, with how John Eustace has handled it. And I personally believe John Eustace has to take responsibility. Now, I was the same under Paul Warne, I was the same under Liam Rossini, I was the same under Wayne Rooney. The manager has to take full blame for team selection, tactics, everything like that, and even transfers. The manager has to take the blame, because especially at Derby County, the end goal is the manager has final say. And for me, when it comes to this team selection, it might not have been John Eustace's idea, it might have been someone in his coaching staff's idea, but ultimately he's the one that puts the names on the team sheet. He's the one that goes, we're going with this, this and this week. And for me, I think the introduction of Mendez-Laing at Pompey, I'm not saying that we lost at Pompey because of Mendez-Laing, But Mendez-Laing came off in the 66th minute. Both our goals came after it. Yes, it came with the introduction of, I believe, Caden Jackson came on to replace Mendez-Laing. But it's sort of the same thing happened. Mendez-Laing goes off, Derby County get better. And ultimately, I think Derby County were the better side for 75 minutes of the game yesterday, but ultimately giving up that 10th minute goal to Luton, obviously, meant that we would, it was always going to be difficult to get back in the game. They could literally just sit in. And in my opinion, we have enough height in the back line. Mendez-Laing doesn't offer anything realistically from a defensive standpoint. So the decision to drop Liam Thompson ultimately for me makes little to no sense for Derby County. Now, if we just take a quick look at the defensive category across the course of these few games for Derby County and obviously the teams they've played up against, so that we can sort of see how it shakes up against these other teams. Now, if we go back to the Preston North End game, 12 tackles won at 60%. Burnley, 16 tackles won at 70%. You go to Pompey, it's only 7 tackles at 58%. Luton Town, it's 12 at 71%. So we're not sort of losing as many duels or whatever, but you get that conversation of that all then depends on the game you're in and things like that, because obviously in the Burnley game, less possession and things like that, only 59 duels to contend with, whereas versus Luton it was 87 across the course of the game. So you've got those discussions that you can have. Maybe we're a little bit better with the midfield too, but for me, and what I've seen with my eyes, and what I imagine you lot have seen as well, is in the last 2 games we've been very open, and the defensive solidity that we've seen seems to have capitulated. Now, for me, I think, especially the Luton Town game, now I wish I could get the stats for the second half and from the goal till the end of the game, because Luton didn't have a shot in the second half yesterday. They had 30% ball possession. They only made 39 accurate passes. And I know 55 clearances in that second half, 7 blocks they made, 36 duels they won in that second half, Luton Town. It is a joke, the situation that we found ourselves in. And do I believe that if Liam Thompson was on the pitch we wouldn't have conceded that goal? No. But do I believe if Liam Thompson was on the pitch, what I mean by no is, we probably still would have conceded that goal, but would we have ended up in that position had Liam Thompson been on the pitch? In my opinion, no. Because the goal comes from Mendez-Laing breaking away from play, not knowing what to do with it and losing the ball. They then break down the other end, get themselves a corner. I'm pretty sure it was a corner. And they win first contact. I think they get second contact as well. And then it's goal. And people can say offside or anything like that. And I'm more than entitled to listen to what you have to say. And you're all entitled to your own opinions. I'm not bothered whether it was offside or not, because at the end of the day, it's one of those situations where, 1, we should have defended better. 2, we had the ball on the other end of the field about 30 seconds before, where Mendez-Laing should have put a cross in the box, or should have beaten his man, got himself a corner, or should have took a shot on or something. But ultimately he didn't, and that's the reason why we've ended up in the position we're in, where we end up losing that game. And obviously you look at the Pompey game and things like that, and I think a lot of the time we had a lack of balance in midfield. You even look at the performance ratings of Ebou Adams and stuff. Now, Ebou Adams and Liam Thompson don't necessarily always get the highest ratings when they play together, but that's not because they're not impactful, it's because they're impacting the game in different ways, and a lot of it is off the ball that doesn't get rated or registered, and that's obviously the disappointing thing to see for a lot of these players. But for me, what Derby County need to do heading into West Brom, there will be a full match preview out tomorrow of that, is we need to go back to basics, back to what was working, the 3-5-2, get Thompson, Adams and Armstrong in midfield. If you don't want to play Thompson, put, what's his name? Put Kenza Helmine in. Put Jeff Hendrick in. Do something different. Don't add an extra attacker thinking, this is going to make us solid and this is going to make us score goals. I get the impression that people have is that Eustace has wanted to go more attacking to try and have more of an impact on the game, but ultimately what it's done, in my opinion, is take away from our defensive solidity. And that's why we've ended up conceding more goals across the last 3 games than we had done, 4 games than we had done in the 4 prior. And that's the disappointing fact. I think if we go back to Swansea, was there a change at Swansea, which I've not spoken about, in the lineup? Yeah, Jackson had to play instead of Jerry Yates, which Thompson was still in the team. And I don't actually think it was that bad versus Swansea, if I'm completely honest. We should have come away with a point. I think there was an opportunity where we could have scored, which would have given us a point anyway. But it's sort of one of those where whenever we take Yates and Harness away from each other, it doesn't seem to work. Now, obviously, you can have your say down in the comments. I think that John Eustace made the wrong decision for both Pompey and Luton. And I think that will obviously change heading into the next game with obviously Mendez-Laing picking up that injury, and he's probably out for the rest of the season, as well as Jakub Zetterstrom, but we'll have to wait and see what happens with that one. So if you haven't done so already, hit the subscribe button, hit the like button, and turn on the notification bell, and I'll catch you in the next one.